55. The liberation of God is the completion of the providence of restoration. 16. We have to liberate God. This involves the number 4. After the Old, New, and completed Testament ages, there will come the era of liberation from sorrow. When the era of liberation from sorrow comes, we must offer everything. It does not mean that God will receive everything and keep it all for himself, rather, he will hand it over to Adam. After Adam receives it, he will give it back to God. And then God will hand it back to Adam, to true parents. From that point they will begin to distribute the right of ownership back to us. When we receive it and take ownership, we will be able to enter the era of the kingdom of unity. These are necessary steps for realizing the kingdom of heaven on earth. 17. We need to save the nation and the world. Yet in order to save the world, we first must liberate God. Only after God is liberated can the world be liberated. What I am saying is that we have to liberate God first and then liberate the world. For this, we Unification Church members have to reach out to the ends of the earth. The bonds of heart we establish with people should be like stakes of love sunk deep into the earth. In this way we will melt the world with love. 18. When parents have lost a child, to whom can they appeal about their miserable situation? Unless that child comes back to life and assuages his or her parents' grief, the bitter sorrow embedded in their hearts cannot be dissolved. Nor can they remove the nail that pierced their heart. Who will take out that nail from God's bitter heart and liberate it with tears of love? Who can pull that nail out of the flesh and blood of God's heart and heal it with restored flesh? Who can give God release from his sorrow? It is we who must liberate God. And we should do so before tending to our own liberation. You should know that this is the path to the ultimate liberation that religious people are seeking. 19. Christianity teaches the idea of the returning Christ. But when Jesus returns, what will he do? God has not been able to evade Satan's incessant demands. Only the Messiah can cut off Satan. Only he can stop Satan from making demands on God and making claims for his unrighteous cause. That is why the Lord of the Second Advent has to come to earth and liberate God. The Lord of the Second Advent must carry out the central role to stand for public righteousness and take responsibility for liberating God. 20. Tears are flowing from God's eyes, red blood is surging in his heart. Yet the blood vessels through which his blood should be flowing are clogged. And he is brought low as if at the point of death. I am resolved to liberate this suffering God by following the way of a filial son, patriot, world saint and divine son. And after I have done all that, and God comes and embraces me and says with tears, "You have worked hard," still I will have to say, "I have done nothing." I turn away to shed my own tears only after I have dried God's tears. I am going such a way according to heaven's law. It is the path that I must go as the true Father. 21. I am trying to liberate God by my own efforts. God is not free, he is in confinement. He is the parent who has lost his sons and daughters. When a filial child dies, even if another child is 10 times more devoted than the deceased child and does everything to ease his or her parents' hearts, still that child cannot liberate them to the point of restoring their hearts to their original state. I am like that second devoted child, trying nevertheless to liberate God who is in that situation. Meanwhile, Christians today mistakenly believe that God is omnipotent and therefore can do anything he pleases. 22. Just to look at me, you may think that I am no different from other people. Yet, my way of thinking is different. I have a different philosophy. It is not my face or my body that makes me great, but my philosophy. My spirit is such that when I move, God himself wants to move with me. He wants to follow me. This is my strength. God has been unable to fulfill the purpose of love. Yet I am asserting that with love I will liberate him. Through my encounters with God, I have come to know his bitter sorrow over his unfulfilled purpose of love. I am trying to liberate God from this bitter sorrow. What I am saying is logical. I assert it based on systematic logic and scientific proof. 23. In order to attain God's original ideal, what is the work that sons and daughters of God must do, for which God will praise them with a liberated heart? My teaching, and the teaching of the Unification Church, is that husbands and wives have to be sons and daughters born from God's lineage, and attend Him as their eternal parent for 1,000, even 10,000 years. That is how we can become God's own, qualified to receive God's eternal praise. We have to reach that position if we are to heal the wounds that remain in God's heart as a result of the fall. 24. Some people pray, "O God of glory, please give me blessings." But God is not in that position. On the contrary, He is in misery, suffering and confinement. God is in such a sorrowful situation because He has no true sons and daughters. And only through their birth can He be liberated. That is why we must become true sons and daughters in order to liberate God. Unless we do so, the way of heaven cannot be properly secured, and the ideal world cannot be established on earth. This has been the mission of the Unification Church during the course of its history. That mission is to correct what went wrong. 25. God is in the process of restoration. He is not in His original state as God. Rather, He is a God of sorrows, a God who deserves to be consoled. He is not the God of joy, but of despair. For God to return to His original state, we must liberate Him. We cannot do it with money or power. Human capacity falls short. It is possible only by true love. 26. Unification Church members are working as a unit for God's liberation. We are not talking about liberating the world. Liberating the world is rather easy. Liberating the world merely requires bringing peoples and nations together. But liberating God requires unity of heart. For this we need the principle, which is a system of thought that can unite the realm of love. We have to untangle the entangled relationships in the spirit world and build bridges of heart on earth. It is a revolution more fearsome and difficult than any other. This is why I say that liberating humanity is easy compared to liberating God. It simply amazes me that I have become the standard bearer for tackling a task unprecedented in this world. It is remarkable that I have been able to provide answers to the fundamental issues of providential history.